Good afternoon. Welcome back to the show. 12:53 is the time. Let's talk about social media. I think most parents are pretty unhappy about their kids using social media, but an awful lot of parents, frankly, don't seem to care enough and quite happy for their kids to be on social media if it means they're not talking to them or causing a scene. But Australia is among the first country in the world to try to organise a social media ban for all under 16-year-olds. It comes into force later today, UK time, Wednesday, of course, Australian time. And basically, you won't be able to set up a new account. Existing profiles will have to be deactivated. You have to verify that you are over 16 to use TikTok and many of the other popular social media platforms. But is it going to work? And what implications are there for everyone else, not just around the world, but also adults? Let's talk about this to Jo Bartosch. She's assistant editor at the Critic. Hello, Jo.
Hello.
Thanks so much for joining us. I think there are a lot of parents like me. I mean, I don't have an issue with my daughter in terms of social media. She wasn't one of those kids, but a lot of kids sitting there all the time, boys and girls, not healthy for them. We've seen kids who've committed suicide. They've been, basically led into the idea that like you're trans, or promoting anorexia, bullying, being groomed by, sexual predators, you name it. Doesn't seem to be a good place for our kids to be. They should be out and about, playing sport, having a laugh with their mates face to face. But is this social media ban, is it actually going to be enforceable?
Do you know what? I think it is. So, we saw similar sort of complaints when the Online Safety Act was introduced, when age verification came into effect. And there were a lot of naysayers saying that kids would just find a way around it. And actually, when you look at the data, Pornhub itself reported that 77% fewer visits from the UK. Wow. And it's not even like it's being rerouted to, Algeria or somewhere random. This is actually showing that.
I thought we were all just supposed to get VPNs or go on the dark web or something, and then we could all access. All the boys in the studio, in the office, looking a bit shy at this moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously kids and young people tend to be better and sort of, digital natives are always going to be able to find ways around it. But actually, that hasn't happened. And I think just having that that small check, just that small sort of piece of accountability, whether it's age verification or any sort of law, just makes people take a step back and think. Yeah. And I think that is something that works.
And taking away the sort of the normalisation of it. I know we've talked to you about your brilliant book, Pornocracy, you've co-authored, and again, just like the normalisation of particularly, some really nasty stuff on social media. But we're not, in this case, you mentioned Pornhub there, but, this is about, supposedly all this innocent stuff with kids and TikTok videos and dances. And I think, frankly, all this stuff is completely horrific. I'm horrified that all these youngsters are getting their news from TikTok. That is not where you should be getting your news. Apparently, I'm big on TikTok. What a joy. But there we are. But, I mean, isn't there always an issue with age verification, where to verify who you are and that you're old enough, whether it's 16 or 18, you're having to give your identity, and a lot of people don't want to give their identity, and they don't want to give their biometric details. They don't want to basically, have some company. I mean, banks are being constantly under cyber attack. I'm not entirely sure that, TikTok or Pornhub or anyone are able to necessarily protect their data.
Oh, I mean, their whole business model depends on extracting data. I mean, they're not in it for the good of humanity. They're in it because they want your kids' data. They want to be able to track their eye movements. They want to be able to, use as much of their information as they can. So I totally get that there is a concern there about the sharing of data. But actually, when it comes to what's being proposed, it's facial age verification for the most part. So it's been left up to the platforms themselves to decide how they want to implement it.
And they're going to get big fines if they get it wrong. But haven't there been cases where kids are just putting a picture of their mum or their dad up, and then they go, yeah, you look over 16, not a problem?
Yes, there have. But the point about this law is it won't persecute the parents, it won't persecute the children. If that happens, it'll be the social media platforms themselves that will have to be accountable. And I think that's the right way to look at it, because, these are multi-billion-dollar organisations that, frankly, parents don't stand a chance against.
No. And again, they probably don't stand a chance in terms of keeping their kids off. There's also that argument, isn't there? Well, not every kid's going to comply with the law, but then they don't when it comes to drinking and smoking and drugs. But we still have those laws. There is, though, that, let's face it, that massive concern over, people's individual freedoms, civil liberties. If they can do this for under 16s, they'll do it for 18 plus as well.
Yeah, no, I understand the concerns around freedom of expression and data security. I do think there's a concern there. But at the same time, frankly, as you were saying to your previous contributor, I don't think governments are frankly up together enough to implement any sort of mass surveillance.
They'd love to be that competent, wouldn't they? Jo Bartosch, I'm sorry it's so short and sweet. I'm sure we're going to talk about this topic again. Assistant editor at The Critic, Jo Bartosch there.